Who are we? We're the ones who step up for each other. I've got your back. You've got mine. Kindness, humility, empathy. It's not just talk. It's who we are. It's who we always have been. And no one can take that from us. The movement to bring it back, it started here. And here. And here. In school gymnasiums, community centers, the living room down the block. You'll be where? Okay, we'll be there. Who are we? We're the movement that will beat Donald Trump. Welcome. We're going to have to sweat for it. We're going to have to sacrifice and fight. We're going to have to lead. Everyone is going to have to lead with kindness, humility, empathy, and not just talk, but action. Action today, action tomorrow. Action until we win. And we will win if we do this together. It's who we are. It's who we always have been. Now let's show them.
Thank you for joining this Biden for President Nebraska roundtable on the Latino agenda with Secretary Hilda Solis. And now, please welcome Nebraska Democratic Party Latinx Caucus Chair, Dulce Sherman.
Welcome and bienvenidos. Thank you for attending today's Nebraska Biden Latino Agenda Roundtable. We are here to talk about the Biden's agenda for the Latino community, joined with former Secretary of Labor Hilda Solis and our panelist guests today, Senator Tony Vargas, Sergio Sosa, Executive Director for the Heartland Worker Center, and Eric Cervillon, President for the Metro Young Latinos Professionals Association, also known as MELPA. So why are we here today? I'm Dulce Sherman. I'm the Latinx Caucus Chair for the Nebraska State Party. How did we get here? This message is for Latinos that are on this call today and every marginalized community. This message is for you. We are at a crosswind. As my mom used to say, el golpe avisa. That means that the hard hits wake us up. Our country is broken. With more than 150,000 COVID deaths, 60% locally here, Latinos impacted, unemployment, homelessness, and the lack of racial justice that we are seeing, the time has come for our dreams, our sueños, to be heard. No more waiting our turn, as we've heard oftentimes. No more waiting our turn. We finally have a presidential candidate, Joe Biden, who is putting Latinos on the agenda, his agenda. He is a glimmer of hope that we have not seen in a long time. His Latino agenda will invest in us economically, in our education, address healthcare disparities, and the hatred that has been targeted at us, our gente. And most important to me is the demoralizing immigration system and the inhumane separation of families, because my parents were immigrants and I'm a firstborn generation born in the United States. So we must all vote like our lives depend upon it, because for us Latinos, it does. And now I'd like to introduce a very special guest, which I'm a huge fan of, former Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis.
Wow. Thank you, Dulce. What a great introduction. And thank you so much for hosting this today. And to everyone that's listening to us, and especially to our panelists, congratulations to this stellar team. And I also want to thank the Biden team for making this available. But before I start, I want to take a moment to explain precisely why I've been so supportive of Vice President Joe Biden since the beginning of his campaign. You know, I also come from a working class background. My parents both immigrated. I'm also first generation. They raised 7 children here. Mother from Nicaragua, father from Mexico. They both met in a citizenship class, and all they wanted was to have a better life for their children. My father cut his teeth at being shop steward for the Teamsters Union. He helped to organize an immigrant battery recycling plant, 300 Latino employees. And my mother went on to work later on an assembly line in a factory because she had to help us make ends meet with such a large family. But both believe, like many of us, that you come here with an American dream, the aspiration that there's so many opportunities and possibilities, and that everybody should be able to live a life with dignity, respect, and comfort. And I like to tell this story often because it's so uniquely American. And I know many of you here on the call and who are watching us can relate to that. And here were two working class immigrants who simply wanted a better life for their children. So when Vice President Joe Biden swore me in to my position as the first Latina to make history, to ever serve in a presidential cabinet, I thought at that moment, I became emotional, and I thought about my padres, my mom and my dad, and what incredible sacrifices they made to allow for us to fulfill our dreams, even some that we didn't even know at the time that we could fulfill. And I know most of you here have had a similar story. You may be the first in your family to go to college, like I was. You may be the first to run for elected office. Those are all important parts of our American culture and our history, but they're also our Latino culture. And I know that Vice President Biden is also cut from the same cloth because his grandfather was an immigrant too, who immigrated to the United States. And that's why I have always known that he is a champion for our needs and for our values. And he gets it. He understands and he knows what it is to struggle, what it is to work hard and have a strong work ethic, and always reminding yourself about your family and your community and the betterment of good for everyone else. So for me, Joe Biden, what you see is what you get. And that is wonderful. He's the real deal. And when he commits to something, he'll do everything in his power to make that happen. So when he talks about an agenda to lift up our Latino communities, we know that he's going to do his best and he's going to fight on for us. This November, as you know, is a personal election, I think, for many of us in the Latino community, especially immigrant families, friends, all of us that have been suffering every single day with the deviation that this Trump administration has brought and the disparities that are so vivid now and have come to bear, and they're hurting people of color, they're hurting Latinos and Latinas, our children and our abuelitos. And we can't stand to see this failure continue, the separation of our families, young children from their parents, and also for someone to defy the Supreme Court by refusing to process DACA applications. My goodness. And I know Vice President Joe Biden sees it and he feels it. Él lo siente. También tiene el temor de este hombre en la Casa Blanca que ya no debe de estar allí. We have to do something. That's why Joe Biden is running to restore our soul of America, el corazón de nuestra comunidad, especialmente la gente que está sufriendo. And many of them are our Latino families. So I had the privilege of knowing a vice president for a long time now. I met him back in 2003, in fact, when I was serving in the House of Representatives, and my staff and his were working on reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act. And at the time, I was serving on a bipartisan coalition of Republican women and Democratic women, and we were able to get it through. But I will tell you something, seeing him work so hard in the first 4 years when I served with him, he helped us get out of the Great Recession. We saw numbers that were horrific. We were bleeding every single month. 800,000 jobs were lost, and many of them were in our Latino community. We lost our homes, we lost everything. He led the stimulus plan to revitalize our economy, to create good jobs in manufacturing, and he helped to provide worker protections for all of us, especially for immigrants. And he helped to provide, I think, that image, that strong image across the country. I got a chance to travel with him to Mexico, to Latin America, Central America, and I can't even begin to tell you the type of respect he has because of his many years of service in the Senate on the Foreign Relations Committee. And the fact that people would even ask me, Secretaria, do you think that Vice President Biden will be president soon? And I looked at them and I smiled and I said, absolutely. He has the caliber, the tenacity, el corazón, y también he has the foresight to work hard on behalf of all of us. So there's no doubt in my mind that he has every capable tool and everything that he knows he could do on day one when he becomes president of the United States. But we have to do it with the help of Nebraska, because we did it before with Obama. We could do it again. And I'm ready to help you in any way I can. And I know the Biden team is ready to go on this. So muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to you. We're deeply honored for you to be part of this conversation, Secretary Solis. And now we're going to move on to opening remarks. I have the pleasure of introducing someone that I personally volunteered for his campaign, Tony Vargas. Senator Tony Vargas is running for re-election, so he will be our senator once again. But I'd like to open it up to Tony to open remarks.
Thank you very much, Dulce. And so I want a special thank you, not only for having, well, Secretary Hilda Solis, it's an honor to have you on the call. You have absolutely no idea. And I know that you're probably going to hear that from all the panelists. Special thank you to Dulce. Thank you to Sergio. Thank you to Eric, Sevillon, and Adana, and the whole Biden team here in Nebraska. I want to take a minute to just to tell you a little bit about myself and why this matters to me, specifically this change in leadership at the state, at the federal level, what we need in the White House, and how that applies to me. I think a lot of us have this shared experience of being Hispanic or Latino. For me, that meant my parents are both born and raised in Peru. I'm first generation in this country. And, you know, for my family, they came here and they fought tooth and nail to make sure that every single opportunity was being afforded to me and my brothers. But that came with so many sacrifices. It came with so many obstacles. And although we've come a long way, and I think the people on this panel, the panelists are evidence of that, including Hilda Solis, we're not where we need to be yet. I was the first in my generation to go to college, first in my generation to graduate college, get my master's degree, and I went on to become a public school teacher. And my time as a teacher taught me that we need to do more than simply just view our entire systems as providing services and needs to individuals. We're trying to change people's lives, and our public systems and everything that we provide to our constituents and the public needs to become better. Because even though I've been able to then become a state senator and I get to serve as the only elected state senator in the Nebraska legislature now, there are people that are suffering no different from how my family suffered growing up in our own backyard in Omaha and across the state of Nebraska. The Biden agenda that's trying to focus on making sure we're increasing access to childcare every single year. Our families are making decision points on whether or not they can afford to have the type of childcare they need, and also the trade-off with the jobs that they have. We have people that are in multi-family homes working multiple jobs. My mother was working on a factory line, and my father was working on a factory line. My father, who just passed from COVID-19, was an IBEW worker working until the age of 72. My mother's working until the age of 73. That is a problem when our families and our communities are not being able to retire or get to a place and have the living wage they need to support themselves and their family. So the Biden agenda is focusing on improving a living wage, better safing working conditions, better childcare access, better mental health supports. All these things are the things that I have been advocating for in the legislature. I'm not alone. The people on this call have helped me push this agenda, not only get elected, but to be effective in helping me push that agenda through a lot of different ways. And I'm not done, but this can't stop at the state level. We need new leadership at the federal level. I have had calls with every single one of the people on this call when something is affecting our state and the democracy that is affecting the Latino community is coming to bear, and we are trying to protect things. We can no longer be in a reactive mode where we're trying to stop terrible things from happening to the Latino community. We need to then be proactive, and the only way that happens, the main way that happens, is by having a new leader in the White House that is ensuring that dignity and respect is brought back to the Latino community and how we engage and how we talk, the rhetoric. And then when we do that, and we also have policies, we're going to have a far different type of Nebraska for Latino communities all over. And I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to stop fighting, nor the people on this panel. We're going to continue doing our part. But there's a breaking point on whether or not we actually elect somebody new in the office. So I know we're all going to do everything we can to make sure that happens, because our future generations of Latinos, the 10% that are currently in our state that are growing, the new generation of young Latinos that are fighting, and our new DACA individuals are fighting tooth and nail to have a better opportunity and a better life. And we don't have to wait 4 years. We can't wait 4 years. So I'm just thankful to be on this call. I appreciate everybody. And I can't wait to continue to push forward to have some new leadership that is needed for the dignity of our country.
Senator Tony Vargas, muchas gracias. You are one of those emerging leaders that you make us very proud, being our Latino representative at the state level. And now I'd like to move forward with opening remarks by the Executive Director of Heartland Workers Center, Sergio Sosa.
Buenas tardes a todos y todas. Es para mí un honor estar siendo parte de este panel, y es un honor también estar siendo parte de los líderes que están con nosotros, y particularmente siendo parte con la secretaria Solis. As you know, my name is Sergio Sosa, and I am an immigrant as well. I came from Guatemala 26 years ago because the war in my country. And I was voting for the first time in 2008 when President Obama got elected. And I saw how, President Obama and Vice President Biden started building this country who was progressing, to the top. But also, as an immigrant, I have been witness two things. One is that when COVID-19 came to our lives, disrupt and destroyed so many families. It has been destroying so many families. And we don't have leadership, to think, bigger and stop, that pandemic. Same, the second thing is, when President Trump became president 4 years ago, he did the same thing that COVID is doing now, disrupting and destroying our country, our families, our values. And so many essential workers, so many immigrants, so many young people who cannot afford to keep studying because of their status. I am supporting Vice President Joe Biden because we need that type of leadership, a leadership who will move again the United States forward, not just in the domestic agenda, but also in the foreign agenda. We need the type of leadership that will think deeply and hard, how Joe Biden, will work with the Latino community to elevate our leadership and elevate our leadership to be part of positions of power, that we together will transform again so many families who have been living under humongous levels of poverty. So many families who now they are called essential workers, who for many people just realize, how COVID have been affecting them. And I know that on November, we all need to vote. And I encourage all my brothers and sisters, Latinos, Latinas, that this time is the year. This time is the time, and we need to elect Joe Biden as our next president of the United States. Thank you.
Sergio, I'm always admired listening to you. You're very inspirational, and I feel blessed to know you as a leader in South Omaha and Omaha community. I thank you for being part of the panel. I'd like to move forward now with opening comments by Eric Servillon, who is not only running for OPS school board, which I hope he will be elected. I'm pretty confident he will be.
Hey, me too.
Shameless plug there for you, because I'm a big admirer. But Eric is also the president of the Metro Latino Professionals Association. So Eric, your opening remarks.
Dulce, thank you so much. Thank you for moderating. Senator Vargas, Mr. Sosa, thank you so much for joining us here on this panel. Team Biden, thanks for putting this on. And most importantly, thank you, Secretary Solis, for being here and for sharing your story. Just with your story, I already felt a connection with you because my parents immigrated from El Salvador back in the 70s and the 80s. And my mom, she was stuffed like a sardine in the bed of a 18-wheeler truck to get over here. My dad, with a jug of water, crossed across La Frontera to get to America just for this opportunity for me, for my sister, who I'm going to give a shout out. She's in the attendees right now, for our family. And that kind of, I can't imagine what they went through, but I had to take advantage of the opportunity they gave me. So with that, it's hard for me to get in front of a lot of people and tell them that our leadership is failing us. Our national leadership, our state leadership, our county leadership is failing us. And when I mean us, I mean not just Americans, but the Latino and the Latino community, because they are not showing the basic leadership that we need to keep everyone safe, to pay essential workers a good wage, a hazard pay, things like that. I was in front of the OPS Board of Education on Monday, and I told them the same message, that because right now we're facing opening schools with COVID still ravaging through our communities. I live in zip code 68107, which I'm sure everybody here on the call knows is the largest percentage of COVID cases in Douglas County, in the city of Omaha, in which it just so happened it's the largest Latino population in Omaha. And is there a coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. But our leadership, again, is not doing the things, not putting the resources, not putting the policy, not putting the funding that we need to protect everybody, for us to return back to school safely, or to do day one remote learning, which is it's minimum leadership that we need. So when I got invited to come on this call and advocate for Vice President Joe Biden for president, I jumped at the chance, because he is somebody that, like Secretary Solis said, gets it, has been there, has that lived experience, and understands the lived experience that Latinos have gone through and are going through right now. I love that he wants to expand healthcare for lower classes, make it easier for us to get access to healthcare. I serve on the One World Board, One World Community Health Centers Board of Directors, and 75% of our population are Latinos. And so getting this access is so important. I won't say much more than that. I'm sure I'll jump in with a word or two later on. But again, thank you all so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate everything that you're doing in the community, and that you are truly an emerging leader that our youth can look up to. And I look forward to having you serve on the OPS board. And now we're going to turn it back over to Secretary Solis, who will provide us with an introduction and overview on the Biden Latino plan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, what a tremendous panel. You all are so inspirational, and I can't wait to see you out there giving the same message that you've already articulated to so many other Latinos across the country, because you guys have the capacity, the ability to help move this agenda along so that we are united as a Latino community. This is our time. This is our moment. And I'm very proud to help present the overview for the Latino agenda. I'm part of the Latino Leaders Council, and we work very closely with the campaign and everyone else on his team to help put this together. And they've talked to many, many people about things that we know, we believe in, that will change and make the difference for Latinos. So let me begin. Biden, as you know, is going to make some large economic investments in our community. And one, and first and foremost, that some of you have already raised, is raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour and getting our small businesses and entrepreneurs the capital that they need by expanding access to $100 billion in low-interest business loans in Latino communities. In fact, he will help enact the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights and the Fairness for Farm Workers Act, which provides protection to those essential workers that you're talking about. And Latino businesses have so much potential, we know that, but they need to have more access to credit and capital. So we have to eliminate those barriers. Latinos, as you know, are roughly 18% of the US population, but they represent less than 6% of small businesses. So we need to expand technical assistance so we can extend federal contracting for small business and to create small business incubators, create more workforce development opportunities, and also help to strengthen protections for our workers, protecting workers from wage theft, from unsafe working conditions, especially essential workers and those that are working in those hard factories, manufacturing, and our healthcare workers. We also have to strengthen their prevailing wages for construction workers and make sure that we are also looking at those states that have right to work laws, because they prevent people from organizing, collectively bargaining. So I know he's going to get very involved in that and protect the rights of protective bargaining and collective bargaining agreements and the right to unionize. That's very essential. That's something that Joe Biden knows a lot about. And he'll also help to end the health disparities that some of you have outlined by creating a more expansive and more robust Affordable Care Act and creating a public option so that people can buy into it at a lower rate. And some may not even have to pay for that, because that's what the public option will provide, to lower the cost to even enter into a healthcare plan. We have that now in California as an example. And also creating subsidies so that people can afford to buy into the Affordable Care Act. Latinos, as you know, are getting sicker. And it's true for us in LA County as it is in Nebraska, where we are the ones that are more likely to be hospitalized and the ones to die from COVID-19 than any other ethnic group. And Biden knows how to do this because he's going to expand the Affordable Care Act, strengthen it so that we have a lower rate of uninsured, especially Latinos. We have to do more to build that out. And he'll also help to flatten that COVID curve that is going up in some places, and particularly in the lives of essential workers who are predominantly Latino, by making more preventative care investments, making sure that everybody has access to the testing that is free. And even if you are undocumented, that you have the ability to get tested and get the care that you need. So those are things that I know the other side is not talking about, but he's ready from day one to get that going. He'll also expand access to high quality education, something that some of you have already talked about, and tackling racial inequities that exist in our K through 12 system, as well as community college and university system. He's going to talk about and improve high quality universal pre-kindergarten for all 3 and 4 years old, something that all of us know that is so important for our young children to get right away, eliminating the funding gap between white and non-white districts, and expand STEM, that science, technology, engineering, and math curriculum, especially in our underserved schools. And he understands the fact that 1 in 5 children in the United States are Latino, and our education system has to work for them as well. Expanding broadband so everyone has access to the internet. If young children and young college students can't go to school, we've got to make sure that that broadband reaches everybody and they have access to the internet. So equity is provided for all students, regardless of your zip code and your ability to pay. And making public colleges and university tuition free for all students whose families' incomes are below $125,000, and expanding funding for Hispanic serving institution and other minority institutions by the tune of $70 billion, something very, very important for us. And forgiving all undergraduate tuition-related federal student debt from public colleges for debt holders earning up to $125,000. This will also apply to individuals holding federal student loans for tuition from private Hispanic serving institutions. And Biden will combat hate crimes, something that I know many of us have faced recently, and gun violence by prioritizing the prosecution hate crimes, creating a $900 million 8-year initiative to fund evidence-based interventions in 40 cities across the country with the highest levels of gun violence. And if you recall, almost exactly 1 year ago, a gunman killed 23 individuals, mostly Mexicanos, people of color in El Paso. Biden will fix our broken immigration system that we all know has to be repaired by ending the extreme and inhumane policies of the Trump administration on day one and stopping the separation of children from their parents and reuniting all of our families, ending the prolonged detention and reinvestment in more case management, reversing Trump's public charge rule, and making sure that we reinstate DACA and to allow them to receive Pell Grants and federal assistance, and creating a roadmap for citizenship for the nearly 11 million undocumented individuals that currently reside in our country. We have to change that and expand TPS, making sure that we strengthen our Latin American and Central American countries and make sure that we get to the root of the problem by creating security for them and also investments, economic investments, so that people can also live well in those countries. So that, in just a little flash, is what part of the Biden agenda will be, that is so, I believe, so very strong and inclusive of our Latino values. So thank you for the opportunity to present this to you.
Gracias again, Secretary Solis. Again, it's an honor, and you've got me already pumped up about what Biden's going to do. Ya estamos listos. So to the panelists, estamos listos because we're going to have some questions for you. And in no order, we have about 6 minutes for each question. The first question will be, in Nebraska, the COVID-19 crisis has been hurting Latino communities, as we know, the hardest. According to the data released in July, Latinos make up 60% of COVID-19 cases. How would Joe Biden's agenda for the Latino community address this public health crisis? Who would like to answer that first? Eric?
Yeah, I'll kick things off, and I think I'm gonna point directly to his plan to expand healthcare access to lower income families, because the biggest thing that is stopping Latinos and those that are low income brackets from getting better is that access to services. Like I mentioned earlier, I serve on the One World Board of Directors, and 75% of our clients are Latino, and the majority of them have to either do a sliding scale or no fee for them because they don't have Medicare, Medicaid, they don't have any kind of private health insurance. We won't turn them away, but we still serve them. And I think that's the best way, because we all know that preventative medicine is the best investment that we can make when it comes to healthcare. So I think that expanding that access, building on what President Obama did with the Affordable Care Act, I think that's going to do wonders for the Latino community.
Thank you, Eric. How about Tony, or Senator Tony Vargas, or Sergio?
Yeah, happy to. So here's what I'll say. There are a lot of different things that are affecting the Latino community in the age of COVID-19, and that 60% of cases is indicative of a lot of different things. But at the crux of it, if healthcare access, what Eric said and what the Biden agenda is saying, Team Biden is saying is absolutely correct. We've been working here in the state to improve access to our public health funding, federally qualified health centers access. We've obviously gotten some from CARES Act funding, but these are one-time things. If we're going to really improve access, we need to improve that infrastructure immediately. And mental health is also a really important part of that, because if individuals can't bounce back and then and also have a living wage, both of those things also help with the healthcare access, because we need people to also be able to continue working, and then sustaining these really difficult times. This is just a hard time for everybody. Potentially people, I've been watching my daughter at home for the last several months. We don't have childcare. There wasn't childcare access that was available that we can afford. And I think a lot of families are running into the same issue as well. So we need to figure out how all the wraparounds also And the Biden agenda includes childcare, healthcare access, mental health care, and a living wage. All of those things, there's not one silver bullet to ensuring that we can bounce back from COVID-19, but those barriers are the ones staying in front of our Latino families right now. And I think that's going to be what helps us get to the finish line.
Gracias, Senator Vargas. Sergio?
Yeah, voy a hablar en español. En el estado de Nebraska hemos visto ya demasiadas historias en donde trabajadores de las empacadoras de carne han muerto, más de 16 personas, que significa que 16 familias son afectadas. Y regreso otra vez al tema de liderazgo, que tenemos líderes que no refuerzan las normas de seguridad, el distanciamiento social o inclusive el ponerse una mascarilla protectora para no solamente protegernos, sino proteger a las otras personas. La gente no se infecta en la casa, aunque la casa es pequeña y es pobre, pero porque no se toman las medidas necesarias en los lugares de trabajo, la gente termina infectada y luego termina infectando al resto de la familia. Y en términos de salud, cuando un trabajador de una empacadora de carne sale infectado, pasa los 14 días de cuarentena y ya, tal vez con doctor o no doctor, regresa a trabajar, regresa a la misma posición de trabajo, con la misma paga, la misma señoría, pero regresa con su cuerpo, con su estado físico bastante débil, porque eso es lo que hace el COVID. Y cuando pide light duty no se lo dan. Sigue haciendo el mismo trabajo duro y luego esta persona no le ha quedado otra opción que, como decimos los latinos, que cuitear. Pero eso no solo afecta a los trabajadores esenciales que son de las empacadoras de carne. Muchas mujeres que trabajan limpiando hoteles, limpiando casas, también han sido afectadas por el COVID. Muchos trabajadores de la construcción están haciendo lo mismo. Y también muchos jóvenes que también no se les ha dado la atención necesaria. El liderazgo tiene que cambiar. Y yo tengo la esperanza de que Joe Biden va a hacer eso. Pero entiendo que el vicepresidente Joe Biden no lo puede hacer solo, porque primero tenemos que elegirlo. Segundo, tenemos que hablar con personas para que vayan a votar, para que salgamos a votar masivamente para elegir a un líder que realmente nos represente y que trabaje con nosotros. Y finalmente diría que el COVID-19 no se va a ir si no tomamos en serio desde el punto de vista del liderazgo que esa vacuna debe ser desarrollada lo más pronto posible y debe dársele acceso a todas las personas independientemente de su estatus legal. Gracias.
Gracias, Sergio. Okay, moving on to the second question. Even before the pandemic, Latinos in Nebraska were being left out of our economic progress. The Latino poverty was higher than the statewide average. How would the Biden agenda improve economic mobility in the Latino community? Who would like to go first?
I'll chime in. So one of the things that I think, and I actually think all of the panelists would agree, because we've all had our engagement with the higher education community. So there's two things. We talked about the living wage. We can't increase. We are in Nebraska. Nebraska is third in the country for people having one or more jobs and still living in poverty. Our wages are not keeping up and ensuring people can get out of poverty. And so that is something that needs to happen immediately. But the second piece of this is higher education continues to be more and more expensive. And I've always thought that education is the pathway out of poverty. Every single one of us has had some level of education, has enabled us to then continue to rise and continue to do more in our communities. And when every one of a Latino student is not graduating high school, if a Latino student is then not able to then go to post-secondary education, serve in the military, work and get a good job, go to community college, or go to a four-year college, and then not be able to afford it. Knowing that there's a pathway for some level of forgiving debt for those earners that are making less than $120,000 is a huge step towards making the American dream of higher education possible. And so we need to do everything we can to elect Joe Biden, because these pathways are what have been keeping our communities farther behind. And the only other thing I'll say, and I hope the Biden agenda works on this, is improving our whole birth through 20 pipeline. Because making a college affordable is one thing. If we can't figure out a way to improve outcomes for Latinos, youth throughout the entire continuum education, we won't have enough of them entering in and being ready to then go to college or go into post-secondary options. We need more of that.
Gracias, Senator Vargas. Secretaria Solis, my apologies. Did you have anything to say about the previous question or the question that we're currently on?
Well, I'll talk about the current one, because I did mention that, the Biden proposal is about making investments in higher education. And as I said earlier, $70 billion investment will be made in Hispanic serving institutions and minority institutions as well. So those are historically Black colleges as well. But the beauty of this program is that for most individuals that can't afford to go to a four-year university, if you go to a 2-year community college, for example, you can pretty much go free for the first 2 years under his program. And I would say to us that it's very important right now because of COVID, because we're seeing dramatic increases in unemployment. We're seeing the biggest job loss that we've ever seen, even before 2008 and 2009, that we're going to need to be training up people to get credentialed very quickly, to get into new types of jobs, whether it's green energy, record coding, things of that nature, solar industry, all these other things that we have to start to look at. And we need to expand that bandwidth in terms of investments in manufacturing jobs, green jobs, and also stabilizing our workforce. So yes, I think the minimum is let's get the minimum wage up $15 and make sure that there are good protections in the workplace and that there are good collective bargaining agreements for workers, whether you're in a meat packing plant, or if you're in an in-home healthcare service delivery, or if you are a teacher. You have to have better wages, protections, and especially because of COVID, I think that under Biden's program, what I envision is that he would, on day one, bring all the resources of the federal government to bear on providing PPE, that's protective equipment for workers, especially essential workers, making sure that they have access to the testing, and making sure that we have a robust OSHA. OSHA is that arm of the Department of Labor that ensures that there are protections in the workplace. And when there are violations by employers, they have to be held accountable. And that's something that you were not seeing in the current Trump administration. So I agree with everything you said, but I will chime in as need be.
Gracias. We have a third question, and unless Sergio or Eric have any comments on question number 2, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with question number 3.
Just a quick thing, Dulce. I agree. That one of the first things that needs to happen is the investment, towards the Latino community. And $75 billion, will do it. But I will also. I would like to see that investment doesn't require so many layers of applications, but it gotta be an easy way for Latino business, for essential workers, for young people to access those fundings to elevate, their standard of living and start combating levels of poverty. But second. We need to go back to get unions in place. And right now it's so difficult to organize unions, not just because COVID, but because so many anti-union busters who stopped Latinos joining unions and make them afraid to join unions. And we need to go back to that country, like at the 18th century when the natural labor were organizing unions all over. And or our parents or the people who came before us, they make it, as from minimum wage to a living wage because unions. And we need to go back to those times. And third, we need to think about immigration reform. That with the path of citizenship, keep families united and no more deportations. Because those essential workers keep producing, under COVID-19 meat or the food that people that we have in our table dinners every single night. But immigration reform combined with, improving working conditions, it is a must. Thank you.
Gracias. Okay, I'm going to move on to question number 3. President Trump's assault on Latino dignity started on the very first day of his campaign. I know we all feel that. That includes verbal attacks, nasty tweets, and policy decisions, like underfunding schools, ignoring Puerto Rico. Why is it so important for the Latino community to vote in November? And Eric, I'm going to start with you since you didn't have a chance to comment on the last question.
Sure, thank you. It's not only important to vote this November, not just to get President Trump out of office and put Joe Biden in that office, but it's important because we need to show America that our voice is here, our voice is loud, and our voice matters. And the best way that we can do that is by voting. If we've, and I know in the Latino community, we've talked about the sleeping giant. It's past time to be woken up and running and doing the things that we know that need to happen for our communities. So I think that's the biggest thing. That's the most important thing beyond choosing our next leader of the free world is to show the American people that Latinos are here.
Right, who else would like to comment? Senator Tony Vargas, Secretary Solis, or Sergio Sosa?
I think this is one of the most consequential elections in our lifetime. I know we tend to say that, but this is no exaggeration. When you talk almost every single day or watch television, you hear the news, there are different attacks that are being lodged against us. The recent one was now on the census, that they're going to close up a month early when we haven't even begun to go out and really count those underserved communities, Latinos, immigrant communities that are petrified right now of even answering their door because of COVID. And many because they think that it could be some unwanted knock on the door from an immigration and ICE officer. This is incredible what this man in the White House is getting away with. In addition, we have to be very careful in terms of what we do in the next few days, next 90 days. I mean, come November 3rd, we absolutely have to think about voting by mail to protect ourselves and others from the COVID virus, but also making sure that we call collectively to all our other hermanos y hermanas, nuestros papás, nuestros abuelitos, everybody, to tell them this is a time to make the change, to restore our dignity in the world. That is important, but also right here at home when so many people are suffering. It's about us speaking up, uniting, and being a strong voice, and making sure that we elect an individual who has respect and cares about the struggles and values of the Latino community and the immigrant community. And regardless, is what I said earlier, regardless of what zip code or what side of the street you were born or what kind of education you have, this is about shared empowerment of all of our communities, whether you're Black, brown, Asian, LGBT, lo que sea. We are all here having to be united. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Nebraska, Omaha really takes the other side to task by showing that we can get good people elected like those on the panel and the future electeds that are going to be arising, and really giving our young people ese apoyo que necesitan para hacer la diferencia. Y la diferencia se puede hacer trabajando juntos con Biden.
Gracias. Anyone else have a quick message on this last question before we turn it over to Adana?
Yeah, para nosotros los latinos, ustedes que nos están escuchando o viendo, no me dejarán mentir que la familia sigue siendo el núcleo esencial de nuestras sociedades, de nuestras comunidades, de las cosas que hacemos cada día o cada domingo cuando nos reunimos para comer tacos o lo que sea. Y el voto tiene que estar conectado con su familia. Porque aunque en su familia haya alguien que no puede votar por no tener papeles, su voto va a contribuir a elegir al líder este 3 de noviembre, Joe Biden, que va a pensar en una reforma migratoria, que va a pensar en la economía, en la salud y también en la educación, y sobre todo, que va a pensar de que se va a conectar con nosotros sabiendo que venimos a este país y la razón por la que venimos a este país fue para darle un mejor futuro a nuestros hijos. Bajo esta administración no lo tenemos. Bajo la nueva administración, con Joe Biden lo vamos a tener. Vote por su familia. Y nos han deshumanizado. Como ya dice una frase, where there is no human being, be one. And you can be the best human being ever by voting this November 3rd. Thank you.
Gracias, Sergio. Tony Vargas, Senator Tony, do you have any comments, quick comments?
Yes, so the only thing I'll say is if you don't go and vote, Sergio is going to come find you in Nebraska. Sergio, I know you're going to go get people. He's been working on this for so long. He cares about voting beyond anything else. Porque tu voto, tienes que votar por tu familia. That's just it. If you can't vote, find somebody that can vote, educate them. The last thing that I'll say is, yes, we have been under attack. The Latino community has been under attack for some time under this administration, and we need that change now. Even later on today, I have a hearing, and that hearing is going to be for meatpacking plant worker safety. And we've heard that, we've talked about it. We're trying to do everything we can. And the rhetoric is about that it's not the employers, it is the employees and their homes and their families that started this. And that rhetoric, blaming immigrants and blaming the Latino community, is what we are trying to stop, and what we need to then, we need new leadership to change that conversation. We're going to all on this panel continue fighting for the local level, but we need somebody new in the White House that understands that our country is based off of a mosaic of beautiful identities, and that culture that a diversity we bring has made this country what it is and will make this country what it's going to be for future generations.
Gracias, Senator Tony Vargas. And now I'm going to turn it over to Adana Bryant, who's going to be delivering some call to action information.
Thank you, Dulce. As Dulce said, my name is Adana Bryant, and I'm the coordinated campaign field organizer for the Nebraska Democratic Party. My passions are community and education. I started my political journey back in high school when I first registered to vote, and I have always taken that privilege very serious. I made it a point to vote in every election locally and nationally. I am the mother of 5. This year, my 2 older sons will join me, and we will vote as a family. This will be their first presidential election, and we are all very excited to do our part. We are Team Biden all the way. I believe that Joe Biden is the best suited to take the reins and lead and unite our country. This most recent presidency has been painfully divisive for America. Biden can bring us all together. We must take back the White House in November. Our lives depend on it. This is a call to action. If any of you are out there are looking for ways to get involved in your community or volunteer, now is the time. We have phone banks, weekly events set up virtually for the coming weeks. Phone banking is really important now more than ever due to COVID. We are unable to canvass our neighborhoods and drop lit as we normally would during this election season. So virtual events, phone banks are the most effective way to get in touch with our voters and keep them informed, energized, and engaged about this election. I would like to remind voters in Douglas and Sarpy County to request their absentee ballots. If you really want to get involved, ask how you can host a convention watch party. Download the Vote Joe app by texting Vote Joe to 30330. And to volunteer, text volunteer to 30330. Please reach out to any of our field organizers. That's myself, Nate, Gino, or Preston. If you have any questions, I will share my contact information in the chat box And thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much. We are wrapping up today's conversation on the Biden Latino agenda. And I wanted to ask any of our panelists if they have any closing remarks before we wrap it up.
Yes, Dulce, if I might, I just want to remind everyone to please read the Biden Latino agenda. I just went briefly over some portion of it, but it is a very, very good document. And I would encourage you to go to joebiden.com/Latino-agenda, joebiden.com/agenda. And I look forward to seeing and hearing from Nebraska and Omaha and all of you before election night, because I know you're going to deliver. You're going to deliver Biden as our president. You did it before. You can do it again. So muchas gracias. Y sí se puede. Y dale gas.
Gracias. Senator Tony Vargas, any quick closing remarks?
I'm encouraging everybody to be educated. If you think you're not happy with how things have been going in this country, that means that you need to activate your friends and your family. Team Biden is around. They're here obviously on this call. Get engaged. It's not simply just your vote. Be a volunteer, as you heard from Adana. And the last thing I'll say is, in a period of a pandemic, we need leadership more than we ever have before. And I cannot sit idly by. We just had a news article that just came out that Omaha is one of the top 9 cities that are the most concerning with rising in COVID-19 cases. And that is the Latino community being unnecessarily affected. We heard it, we talked about it, and we need some things like leadership at the top. We're one of the only cities that doesn't have a mask mandate. We need more protection and support from the top, and Team Biden is going to do that for us. So thank you, everybody.
Gracias. Sergio, any closing remarks?
Yo creo que, como la secretaria Solís decía, sin exageración, este año es un año políticamente súper importante, no solamente para nuestras familias y este país, sino para el mundo, para que Estados Unidos vuelva a ser el líder del mundo. Pero elegir con nuestro voto al vicepresidente, que va a ser presidente Joe Biden después del 3 de noviembre, es súper importante. Pero también en Nebraska tenemos que elegir a otros líderes, a otras personas que están corriendo para puestos públicos locales o estatales, porque esa combinación entre los líderes federales nuevos después del 3 de noviembre, con la combinación de los líderes estatales y locales, va a ser súper importante para que nuestras familias tengan otra vez la oportunidad de ese sueño americano para los latinos, que es básicamente dar un mejor futuro a nuestros hijos. Y para finalizar, votemos. Y pensemos también que debemos, de decirle a los jóvenes que es el tiempo de que la acción del voto es súper importante. Venimos por ustedes y nos hemos sacrificado por ustedes. Ahora, con su voto, es algo que ustedes van a contribuir para que este sueño de tener una comunidad que funcione para todos realmente se realice. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Eric, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Secretary Solis, Dulce, Senator Vargas, Mr. Sosa. Thank you so much for being here. Like Sergio said, I am one of those candidates that is running. I'm the first Latino in my family to run for office, running for the OPS Board of Education District 9, which is the South Omaha, predominantly Latino district. And I'm running because I want to see elected officials that understand what it's like for the boots on the ground, that have that lived experience that comes from being a second generation Latino American. And I'm running because I want to continue to serve. So for those of you, please check me out on ericserves.com. You can spell it either way. It'll take you to the same website. And again, I'm very much looking forward to November 3rd, not just for my victory, but also Joe Biden's victory. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'd like to thank Secretary Hilda Solis for being here, and also to all of our panelists and everyone that joined us today. As I said earlier, my mom used to say, el golpe avisa. So today was the hard hit that is to wake us all up. And if any message that you take away today, look into the Biden Latino agenda and talk to every possible friend, family member, get them registered to vote, ask them to vote by mail, and make sure they vote, because Our life depends upon it as Latinos, as we see with COVID, how it's impacting our community. Vote like our life depends on it. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
We take care of our own.
Oh, everyone, we are out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Precious.
Hey, Dulce. You good?
Thank you.
You guys, I mean, awesome.
This was great.
When I listen to you guys, I just get so passionate. Like, I'm like, we just need to be out here on the front line. So thank you so much, everyone.
Yep. I had Sergio ask if we plan to do this again in the evening. So I mentioned to him that this was being recorded, that it's something that we can share. So that's definitely a link that we probably all want and will want to share with the communities that we serve. But just something to think about. And, you know, the message too about the youth, the Latino youth, and also on the African American side is whether we plan to do a panel with youth as well to talk to them about Biden.
Okay, cool. Let's try it offline, and then I got all these notes written, and I'll get them done. Senator Vargas.
Precious.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You want?
No, go ahead, Precious. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought Senator Vargas was going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. This was a very great conversation. It was really awesome. But definitely email me, Dulce, and then Eric, what'd you have?
I was just going to say, you know, I speak regularly with like the YP presidents of the different YP groups out there, and like they would be totally down to have some kind of youth event. You know, Urban League, we got the Urban League, Region of Omaha, et cetera, et cetera. Be happy to help put that together.
Okay, I'll put that down.
For sure. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nader.
Thank you, Secretary Solis. Thank you, Dulce. Later, Precious.
Bye.